Hello, everyone, and welcome to Trophy Dark, Devil, Aim for Me. My name is Mike. My pronouns are he, him. Tonight we are playing on the Gauntlet calendar. A little bit about the Gauntlet. The Gauntlet is an online tabletop role-playing gaming community. We focus on small press RPGs, indie RPGs, story games, and the old school Renaissance. We also have an open calendar that is free to play, free to join. We run 100 or so games a month on the calendar. Again, it's free to sign up. Sometimes there's a wait list for games, but hey, it's free. In addition to that, the Gauntlet also has a podcast network. We publish a monthly. We publish a monthly gaming, or I'm sorry, a bi-monthly gaming magazine called Codex. We maintain a forum. We have a blog. If you're interested in checking out the Gauntlet, look us up on gauntlet-rpg.com. A little bit about myself. I've been playing tabletop RPGs for a long time. I cut my teeth in back in 1983 on the Tom Moldvay edition of the D&D basic set. I played a lot of D&D in the 80s. I played a lot of GURPS in the 90s. I played a lot of D&D 3rd edition, and then Pathfinder in the aughts. In 2015, I kind of fell into the deep end of the story game pool when my Pathfinder group fell apart, and I was invited to play this, quirky little hippie game called Dungeon World. And Dungeon World opened my brain to a whole new way of playing RPGs, and I've mostly been playing story games ever since. Talk a little bit about the game we are playing after introductions are over, but let's go around the table. Let's go clockwise as you appear on my gallery view. So, Mark, would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Mark. Go he or them. I have been on the Gauntlet for 2 or 3 years, and I am of a similar vintage as Mike. I think started with the exact same set, the box with the blue book. Played that for a long time in the early 80s. Played some Rifts and Shadowrun in college. Took a little break for a while during the vampire years and came back for the Forge and story games and all that. And here I am playing a little bit of everything.
Awesome. Glad to have you aboard. Jim, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hey, yeah, I'm Jim Crocker. I generally use he and pronouns, but if you're using they, them more generically, that's totally fine with me too. I run and play a whole lot of games on the Gauntlet and elsewhere. I've been a retailer of games and comics for many, many years. My whole adult life, I owned a couple of comic book stores. I've had business selling stuff at conventions, and I still help out my friends from Indie Press Revolution at cons all up and down, the East Coast to the Midwest and stuff like that. Mark, if you had the blue book, you had the Holmes D&D set, because the Moldvay was the red book. So because I started with the Holmes set myself as well. So yes, but
the color cover, the blue book, right?
So I have just effectively dated myself by tapping into that conversation. So you get some sense of what's going on there. I was lucky enough when I owned my store to be in Northampton, Massachusetts, which is the Western Mass area where Vincent Baker and Rob Bull and F.D. Ravachol and all those folks hung out and everything. So I played Apocalypse World with Meg and Vincent when they were developing it and stuff like that. Oh. And, just by, happenstance, lucky accident of geography, I was kind of in on the ground floor of a lot of that indie stuff. So I've had great interest in it and, have made that the stuff that I'm interested in selling and moving out into the world. I've written some trophy stuff. I wrote a trophy scenario called an incursion for Trophy Dark called The Flocculent Cathedral, which seems to have kind of been adopted as a good introductory adventure. I know there's a lot of actual plays of that out there. So, but this Western stuff, I love the Weird West stuff. I'm really looking forward to this game. Mark, I've played with you. Kevin, I don't think you and I have played together before. And I've definitely played a bunch with Mike. So looking forward to this.
Well, really glad to have you aboard, Jim. And Kevin, would you introduce yourself? Or I'm sorry, I'm sorry. You said before we started recording that you go by a different name that's on your.
Yep, that's fine. I'm Cliff. My middle name is Kevin, so I typically go by Cliff. And yeah, gosh, I'm brand new to the Gauntlet. This is my first game, so been an admirer for many a season, and have finally spiraled in, and woohoo! So glad to be here. Great admirer. Gosh, I am also Blue Book D&D. It was gotta figure it was 1977 when a neighbor said, "Come on over and start a first level cleric," and we were still oohing and eyeing over the Book of Greyhawk and chainmail rules and things like that. But a little bit of GURPS came through, break with raising children, some Ars Magica, and then of course seeing Apocalypse World and indie games and etc. It's just brought me closer and closer. I love to reskin games, homebrew, and then maybe one day there'll be full-fledged hacks one day. But I didn't say my pronouns are he, him, and very excited.
I'm excited to be the GM for someone who's brand new to the Gauntlet. I hope we have fun. So now that we've introduced ourselves, I want to talk a little bit about the game that we're about to play. I know Jim is super familiar with Trophy. He wrote as what has become the Keep on the Borderlands for Trophy Dark. I have run his Flocculent Cathedral, maybe not quite a dozen times, but close to that. Mine isn't published yet. I've written a couple of. I have a game called that I've run in playtest a couple of times. I wrote an incursion for Trophy Dark called Isle of Water and Blood, which I will hopefully be publishing before the end of the year. We'll see if that happens. Trophy is so Trophy Dark is the game we are playing. Trophy Dark is a horror game. This particular game is set in the Old West, which is a bit of a drift from the standard setting, which is kind of like dark medieval fantasy. So the incursion we are playing is called Devil Aim for Me, written by Michael Van Vliet, which uses the basic Trophy Dark rules, but puts it in an Old West setting. Trophy Dark is a game about fatally flawed characters who are poking their noses into places in the world where they are not wanted, seeking riches they do not deserve. This is not the story of the beginning of. This is not these characters' origin or beginning story. This is a story of their end. It is very, very likely that your characters will die. Will die before or at the climax of this game. And if your character does somehow survive, they will be forever changed and not for the better from the experience. So this is a game. So Trophy Dark is kind of like billed as a play to lose game, which I tell you as the players, your characters do not know they are doomed. So from your character's perspective, your characters are going to play to win until circumstances turn to the point where the end is nigh, and in which case that's when it's time to start playing to lose. And the fun of this game is watching and experiencing these characters succumb to their hubris, succumb to their flaws, and to meet a tragic but ironically appropriate end. So that's Trophy. So I like to start my games with a CATS discussion. CAT stands for concept, aim, tone, and subject matter, and that's a way that we can make sure that we're all pretty much here to play the same game. So the concept, I've already said. Trophy is a tragic horror game of watching flawed characters succumb to their hubris as they seek things that they don't deserve. This particular setting is in the Old West, where you are going to be bounty hunters trying to collect a bounty on a murderous bank robber who has a whole lot of legends about him that he's basically unkillable. So there is going to be, so this is Old West, but this is also a Weird West game. So there are going to be supernatural elements to this game. The aim of this game is to tell a compelling story of the downfall and demise of these characters. So that's again, this is a story about the end of these characters. So you're probably not going to get out alive, but you never know. The tone of this game. I want to go for kind of like supernatural spaghetti Western. So we're going to deal with like big vistas, big concepts, it's like a fair amount of interpersonal drama. But again, it's a horror game. So you are going to be encountering some bad things. I'd like to keep the tone mostly serious, although there will be, although the best horror is punctuated by notes of levity and moments of humor. So there's going to be some of that. There's a couple of NPCs that we might meet that have a comical side to them. So that might be fun. And the subject matter. So this is an Old West game. We're going to be dealing with issues of gun violence, bounty hunting. There will be ghosts. There will be there will be demons. There will be violence. We may encounter corpses. So that's sort of like the trigger warnings. I do want to say one thing is the game as written has some like animal. I won't go so far as to say animal cruelty stuff, but there's some scenes in the game as written that involve like animal death. I'm not super interested in that, so I'm going to be eliding over that. But I just wanted to preface that by people who want to go out and buy this module, and I encourage you to buy this module. It's excellent. But the game as written has some animal. Again, I wouldn't say animal cruelty stuff, but it's got some animal death stuff that I find I get a little icked out by. So we're probably not going to deal with that. Any questions on concept, aim, tone, subject matter before we go on? Okay. Now I sent in email a link to a character keeper. Does everyone have that? Everyone have the character keeper in front of them? Okay, if you've got the character keeper,
pull it up here, but yeah, I understand.
If you can open up the character keeper, it should say Trophy Dark, Devil Aim for Me, Gauntlet, September 2022. If you want to click over to the Safety and Resources tab at the bottom, we're going to talk a little about emotional safety at the gaming table, and we've got some stuff on that page that'll help walk us through that. So this is a horror game. And I think is especially true to talk about safety when we're dealing with horror. Safety tools are a means of, well, I'll back up a little bit. Each of us have a different set of life experiences. And things that I might find perfectly okay to deal with might be very traumatic, or you might have some bad history with and don't necessarily want to deal with. And the reverse is true. You may have no problem whatsoever with some subjects that I just don't want to deal with. Safety tools are a means of putting some bounds around those things to help mitigate and help us avoid stepping on landmines. In role-playing games, we're putting our emotions on the line. We're opening up to strangers, and we're making ourselves vulnerable to these emotions that are going to come out, because we're playing a game. We know we're playing a game, but sometimes your brain forgets that you're actually playing a game, and you might start feeling real emotions for these fictional characters and these fictional solutions. And safety tools are a way to help mitigate that and help us focus on the fun and not focus on the things that might make us feel a little icky. Because we're a bunch of strangers or near strangers that are getting together on the internet to play a game. Each of us individually is more important than this game we're playing. And the point of this game is to have fun, and safety tools allow us to focus on the fun. We're going to take a layered approach in this game, and we're using 3 formal safety tools. The first one we're going to use is called Open Door, and Open Door is concerned with our personal physical comfort, and it's really simple. With Open Door, any of us can come and go as we please for this game. Any of us can call a break at any time. Any of us who needs to step away can step away whenever you want. All of us have permission to come to the conclusion that once you started to play, you know what? This game isn't for me. I'm not really having fun. I'm going to bid you all good night and wish you the best. To which we say, thank you for playing. Hope we can play something more to your liking again in the future. That's Open Door. Anyone have any questions on Open Door? Second tool we're going to use is a proactive tool that is called Lines and Veils. With Lines and Veils, we're going to call out particular subject matters that we just either don't want to deal with or that we want to treat with kid gloves. Lines and Veils was developed by Ron Edwards back in the Forge era for his game Sorcerer, and it's become a staple safety tool for a lot of games since then. If a subject is lined, that means we are not going to include it in this game at all. I'm not going to include it. You will, when this is a collaborative story game, so you won't. So you as a player won't introduce those elements. We're just not going to deal with them. If a subject is veiled, that means that we can acknowledge that this subject happens in the game. We may see signs that it has happened. We may hear reports of it happening by other people, but it's not going to happen on camera, and it's most likely not going to happen to a PC without the player's prior consent. So if something is veiled, we'll either treat it with kid gloves, or if a veiled subject matter comes up, we're going to like fade to black and pick it up after that's over. There's a third category called Ask First, which means a subject matter that may be okay in some situations, but may not be okay in others. So if we want to play with an Ask First element, we'll pause the game, have a little out of character discussion about the bounds around that. So which is, like quite literally, we'll ask first before we introduce that element. On our sheet, I've got a list of commonly lined and veiled subjects. I'm going to ask you to hit some check marks, and I'm going to pause the recording so that we can have a discussion off camera if we want to talk about or have any questions about lines and veils. So I'm pausing the recording now.
My coffee here.
Okay, we are back. We have set some lines and veils. Oh, and I forgot one thing. I'm going to pause this once more because it's dead air is terrible radio. Hold on a moment. Okay, so we really do have our lines and veils now. One thing I want to say about lines and veils is this is a living document. If things come up in play that we didn't think of, we can always go back and revise. Any questions about lines and veils before we go on? Okay, the third safety tool that we want that we're going to be playing with is a reactive safety tool. It's called the X card. When you invoke, if you want to invoke, basically anytime that something happens in the game that is making you uncomfortable or that you don't want to see, or is even taking the game in a direction that you don't want it to go in, you have the power to invoke the X card, to which you can say X card. You can type X card in the chat, where if you're on video, which we all are, you can make like an X symbol with your arms. That's telling us all that we need to pause the game and have a discussion to figure out what we need to change. You don't have to tell us why you don't need to tell us why we need to change this, but we do need to know what, so that we can work around it. So depending on what it is that you're X carding, we will either we can either, like just fast forward and just jump to the next scene. We could rewind the scene and replay it without the element that you don't want. We can, change the name of the thing to something else. Like some examples of things that you might want to X card is like for example, I've introduced the name of I've introduced an NPC by name, and the name I happened to give them was the name of the bully that used to beat you up in 5th grade, and you absolutely hate that name. Well, you know what? This is an NPC. He doesn't really exist. He doesn't really exist, and his name doesn't have to be, I don't know, Reginald. We can change it to something else. If alternatively, if someone has introduced if the game is going into a direction you don't really want it to go in, you can X card. We will have a discussion and figure out which direction we want to put the game in. Two things I like to call out about the X card. One is you can use the X card on things that happen that are happening like at the table but not at the game. Like for example, if someone is regularly getting your name wrong, regularly talking over you, is misgendering you, X card that. We'll, we're all adults here. We can have a discussion about things that are happening at the table, not necessarily in the game. That's one thing I like to call out. The other thing I like to call out is if something happened in the game that you didn't really like, but you didn't think it rose to the occasion of like really wanting to interrupt, and you let it slide, and then it happens again, it is perfectly 100% okay to X card something that you let slide once, maybe even let slide twice, but now you don't want to deal with it anymore. Perfectly 100% okay to do that. And I do like to call that out. Just because you let something slide that didn't make you feel great because you thought we were going to be done with it and move on, and if it comes back later, totally okay to X card that again. That is the X card. Any questions on the X card or any of the other safety tools? Awesome. This isn't exactly a safety tool, but one thing I do like to say is, in case something happens to me or my internet connection, and I disappear off camera or freeze or look concernedly to my left, get up, take my headset off, walk off camera, and I don't come back for 10 minutes, assume that the game is over, that something happened to me, and the game is over. Take the rest of your evening back. I wish I could say I've never invoked that, but yeah, I've had power outages and or internet outages that happen in the middle of a game. It happens. But kind of like when you show up for a lecture in college, and if the professor is more than 10 minutes late, the de facto rule is like, well, I guess there's no class today, and everyone leaves. Yeah, it's kind of that. Any questions before we move on? All right. Let's click over to the character tab, and let's talk about making some characters. So I know Jim's played Trophy before. Mark, you've played Trophy before, right? Okay. Cliff, you haven't, which is cool. Welcome to the world of Trophy. Trophy Dark characters are actually pretty thin. There's not a lot to them. We should be able to make characters. Character creation probably is really only going to take like, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. You're not building a character the way you do in like Pathfinder or D&D 5th edition. You will note that your characters do not actually have statistics. So you don't have, your character is defined by a few things. You have an occupation. Your character's occupation tells you what you are doing now. Your character has a background. That tells us what your character used to do. And your character has a drive. And your drive is like why you are in this whole situation. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, why do you need to make money fast in this terribly, terribly dangerous situation, such that you're willing to risk you're willing to risk your mind, body, and soul in this fool's errand. Your occupation and your background will also give you skills. Your occupation gives you 3 skills, and your drive gives you another 1. The skills are deliberately vague. They're deliberately open-ended. When we talk about our dice mechanic, if what you're trying to do, if you're trying to do something, and one of your skills like would help you or would apply to whatever it is you're trying to do, basically you get a light die in your die pool. We'll talk about dice pool once we get to the game mechanics. But basically, if you want to do something and a skill applies, you get an extra die, which increases your odds. So every character has 4 skills. And again, they're open-ended. They're open to interpretation. So between your occupation, your background, and your drive, that's going to tell you a lot about who your character is and why they're here. And you can use those things to sort of like build your character story around those elements. So in addition to occupation, background, and drive, there is another thing in the original game. There's a thing called rituals, which are basically magic spells. Well, cowboys in the Old West don't really cast spells. So in Devil Aim for Me, the author has incorporated this idea of a becoming myth. So like cowboys and the Old West has an American mythical quality to it. And so these myths are like legendary deeds that you may be able to do. They work more or less like a magic spell in other games. But these are like, but if you have a myth, that means you can do something that's beyond what normal people can do because you're just that mythic. You can choose up to 3 myths, and you've got a list of 12 myths to choose from. You can choose up to 3. However, knowing myths takes a toll on you. For every myth that you know, your ruin score, your starting ruin score will increase by 1. And this is important. Ruin is kind of like your hit point score. It counts up instead of, unlike in a lot of games where you have a maximum and you go down. Ruin counts up, and the more ruin that you have accrued, the closer your character is to their story ending. Your maximum ruin, when you hit 6 ruin, your character's story is over. That means you have succumbed to the dark forces that are infusing the world, or you have succumbed to your wounds, or you have succumbed to your delusions, or whatever. Once you hit ruin 6, your character's out of the game, and we'll basically have an exit scene for them. Doesn't necessarily mean your character is dead. It could mean that your character has gone, it could mean that your character has become, like possessed by demons and is now a monster. That more happens in the fantasy version, but that can very well happen here. As your ruin increases through dice rolls, you will also gain what are called conditions. Conditions are narrative effects that will affect your play. A condition may, like a mundane condition that doesn't really happen in dark, but could be like you've got a sprained ankle. That could be a condition. It doesn't have any mechanical effect, but it does have a story effect, because if you've got a sprained ankle, that means that's going to limit some of your actions. So, for example, if you've got a sprained ankle, it's going to be a lot harder to like run across the field while a sniper's shooting at you. If you didn't have a sprained ankle, I might just say, okay, you get across the field. If you do have a sprained ankle, I might say, you know what, you've got a sprained ankle. That's like everyone else can do that, but you have to make a roll to see if you make it across. Many of the conditions that will be imposed in the game are kind of like supernatural effects, and we'll talk about them when they happen. The conditions you get through Ruin Increase tend to be around a theme, and that theme worsens as your Ruin increases. So again, everyone starts at Ruin 1. For every myth that you choose to start with, and you don't have to start with any, your starting Ruin increases by 1. So if you play with 1 myth, your starting Ruin is 2. If you start with 2 myths, your starting Ruin is 3. And if you start with all 3 myths, your starting Ruin is 4, which means you can only take 1 hit before you're out. I'm sorry, you can take 1 hit and still be up, but if you take that second hit, you're at 6 Ruin and you're out of the game. At the same time, myths, they're essentially magic, and they might come in very handy. They don't always work, though. They are unreliable because using a myth requires a risk roll. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the dice mechanics. I'm going to talk about them very briefly. Mostly we'll get to them in play. The primary roll we are going to be doing in Trophy Dark is called the risk roll. If you want to click on I'm just going to click over to the rules reference just to make sure I'm reading it properly. When your character wishes to perform a risky task and failure has consequence, tell us what you hope will happen, and then ask the GM and the other players what could possibly go wrong. So the GM and the other players will tell you, okay, well, if you want to do this, these are possible consequences, so that you are aware of the stakes of what could go, so that you're aware of the stakes of what might happen to you if things don't go your way. You can choose to back down before you roll if you realize that these consequences are more than you're actually willing to risk. If you decide to press on, we're going to assemble a small dice pool. This game only uses D6s. It uses D6s of 2 different colors. They are called light and dark. So you take 1 light die if you are willing. You take 1 light die if you have a skill from a background or from your occupation or background that would help you. You can take a 2nd light die if you accept a Devil's Bargain. Cliff, have you ever played any of the Forged in the Dark games before?
I have some Blades mostly.
Okay, these work more or less. Devil's Bargains and Trophy work pretty much identically to the to Devil's Bargains in Blades in the Dark. So basically, the difference here is that everyone can offer. Like in Blades, those usually come from the DM or from the GM. In Trophy, anyone can offer a Devil's Bargain, all of the other players. So if you're willing to accept Devil's Bargains, the GM and the other players will offer new story elements. And whatever, if you choose to accept Devil's Bargain, that is going to be a new story element that's going to enter the game regardless of what happens on the die roll. So usually Devil's Bargains can't be contingent on success or failure of your roll. So usually you phrase this as no matter what, ... this thing happens. They don't necessarily have to do specifically with the roll. It could be that, like, no matter what, that lawman that's been chasing you shows up. You know, could be a perfectly acceptable Devil's Bargain if you're, like, you know, trying to, you know, if your risk roll is, you know, you're like trying to jump, you're trying to, you know, jump across a box canyon or something like that. So Devil's Bargains are a way that all of the players, in addition to the GM, are able to introduce new story elements and to have some level of narrative control in the game. So you can take a light die. So in a risk roll, you take a light die if you have an appropriate skill. You take another light die if you accept a Devil's Bargain. You can then take a dark die if you are willing if you're willing to put your mind, body, or soul on the line. Sometimes, and depending on what you're doing, the GM may require you to take a dark die if what you're doing is inherently dangerous. If you are using a myth, if you are using one of your myths, a myth is a risk roll, and a myth always requires a dark die. If you want to do something and you have no appropriate, if you want to do something risky, you have no appropriate skill, and you're not willing to accept the Devil's Bargain, then the only way you can attempt it is by using a dark die. So you assemble your dice and you roll them, and we're going to look at the highest individual die result. If that's a 6, you know, what you want to do, what you wanted to do happens, and you have narrative control. You tell us how that turns out. If the high die is a 4 or a 5, you succeed, but there is a complication. The GM will describe the complication, and then you describe how you succeed, or the other way around. And if you get a 1, 2, or 3, it doesn't go so well. It's either you either don't succeed or you succeed, but it's a period. Or you got what you asked for, but not what you wanted. The color of the die also matters. If the high die if the highest number comes up is on a dark die, or if the high number is on a dark die is tied with a light die, there's a chance your ruin may increase. We'll basically look at that number, compare that with your ruin. If the number on the dark die is higher than your current ruin score, your ruin goes up. You know, so if you're at 2 ruin and, you know, you roll, so if you're at 2 ruin and you're, you know, and the high die was a 4, and that high die was a 4 dark, your ruin would increase by 1, and you'll probably get a condition, and we'll tell you how this manifests in the game. There's another roll which may happen. Basically, if you encounter something horrible, I may call for a ruin roll, and that's basically just roll a dark die. If the dark die is higher than your current ruin score, your ruin goes up. There's a way to reduce your ruin. Oh, forgot. One very important thing about the risk roll. I almost totally forgot, and it's very important. If you make your risk roll and you're not happy with the result, and the highest die rolled up was not a dark die, you can add a dark die and re-roll all of your dice. And hope for a better result. You can keep doing that. You can keep, you know, you can keep adding dark dice and re-rolling to increase your odds, although that does also increase your odds of your ruin going up, as long as the high die is until the high die is a dark die. So if the high die is a dark die, you can't add another die and re-roll. There's also Once your ruin hits 5, there's a way to reduce that. We'll talk about that once someone's ruin hits 5. There's also mechanics for helping, or there's also other mechanics. There's a help roll where if you want to help out another character, we can do that. We'll talk about that if and when it happens. And there's also a contest roll, which is if one or more characters are like vying for the same thing, we can have a contest, and there's a mechanic for that, and we'll talk about that if and when it happens. Most of the time, we're going to be rolling the risk roll. That is that are the rules. Let's see what else. I'm going to hide the one character that we're not using. People have ideas about their characters, or are you still trying to figure stuff out?
I'm leaning towards a spiritualist type con man. Yeah, that sounds fun.
Oh, looks like we lost Cliff.
Oh.
Give him a second to come back.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, so maybe he does seances, maybe he had a medicine show, but yeah, that sounds fun to me. Start him off a little ruiny.
That sounds awesome. And Cliff's back. We lost you there for a minute.
Taxing iOS here.
Just going to talk a little bit about how trophy is structured. Trophy is structured in what are called rings. As you get closer to the center, the intensity ratchets up. Each ring has a set of terrors that are kind of obstacles you need to overcome. They also have a set of temptations, which are things that will hopefully like pull you, like draw you in deeper into the incursion. Well, that's the other thing. A scenario in Trophy is called an incursion because you're going somewhere where you're not supposed to be. Trophy Dark has 5 rings. Ring 1, ring 1 is there to, ring 1 is there to make you feel confident. Ring 2, your enemy is usually the environment. Ring 3 is personal and psychological. Ring 4 is usually monsters. Ring 5 is usually your terrors are usually the other player characters. So we are about an hour in. Folks made their choices, or people still figuring it out, or anyone have any questions?
I usually wait until other folks have picked. What are you interested in, Cliff?
Well, I think I've got that disgraced. I'm going to give it the Tex-Mex version, the disgraced curandero, apothecarist,
Okay.
who is a homesteader.
Okay.
So I'm starting.
Grifter, spirit
Thank you.
medium. Okay. All right. So I'm going to do that. And
while folks are making decisions, I'm going to make I'm just going to say a couple of things about your drive. Drives are also written to be fairly, to be both, they'll often have like names of people and places, and we don't know what those are. I don't know what those are either. We'll figure those out in play. So drives usually have just enough specificity that you can like hang stuff off of, and like figure out what that means. We're going to probably do some world building to figure out more about this Wild West setting that we're in. And you can use the implied story of your background and occupation and drive to like tell you a little bit about your character.
Yeah, so I've got I've chosen my background at least, so, or my occupation and background. So that's
okay. I figure once we've made our decisions for characters, I'm going to call a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll start play.
Sounds good.
See, one of us have taken the Gila Monster's gift. Gila Monster that can squirt blood from its eyes.
I can't seem to see the rest of Salt of the Earth. Earn immediate.
Hold on. That might be a problem in the data. Let me take a look. Salt of the Earth.
Oh, maybe if I select it too.
immediate trust with the common folk.
Yep. Earn immediate trust for the common folk.
Okay. Thank you. I guess I'll go with that. I'm showing selections that I've made. They may not be updating, so I can always read things off too as well.
Okay. Yeah, this iteration of the Trophy Dark character sheet is kind of an old one, but I like it because it's really easy to mod for kind of Trophy Dark drifts. So that's why I tend to use it for ones that shift the setting. I just noticed there's no. I guess we'll have to just use the notes for that. I just noticed there's no line for conditions. We can just use the notes field for that. Folks pretty much have their characters, or still figuring things out?
I think so.
Okay, so I guess we just need names. I'll let folks think about names. I've got 6 minutes after. Yeah, I want to take a 10-minute break. Let's come back at 16 past.
All right. Thank you.
So I'm going to talk a little tiny bit about rules before we introduce our characters, just because there's a couple of things I just wanted to make clear. This game doesn't have a combat system per se. If you are fighting like normal people and like normal beasts, and it comes to blows, we'll figure that out. We'll use a risk roll to determine what happens in the fight. If you are trying to fight if you are trying to fight, like the original game refers them to like the terrors of the forest. If you're trying to fight a monster, you can't fight a monster. If you try to fight a monster, you will die. The monster will kill you. That's just the rules. You can use risk rolls to try to trick a monster, or to run away from a monster, or to hide from a monster. You can also try to use a ritual against a monster, or I'm sorry, you can try to use myths against a monster. But if you try to, like, I mean, here in the Old West, if you try to, if in this particular setting, if you're trying to like kill an actual monster by like emptying your 6-shooter into it, it's not going to care. It's going to come. It's going to get you. But yeah, if you have a fight with like normal people, we'll resolve that with a risk roll. Off camera, before I restarted, we were talking a little bit about Trophy Gold. Trophy Gold, which is the campaign play version of Trophy, that has a combat system, so you can fight monsters in that. But we're not playing Gold tonight. So that was one rules element I did want to make sure that everyone was aware of. You can't fight actual monsters. If you try, you will die. Okay, then. Let us learn a little bit about our characters. Let's go. Oh, let's mix things up a little bit. Let's go right to left. So, Mark, would you tell us about your character?
Yeah, my character is Alexander Strashidlo. He is a spiritualist, meaning he is a con man, a grifter. Probably does seances, may have had a roadshow in the past, but now he is looking to settle down and get a parcel of land for farming or ranching, a place they can't take from you. Alexander has a couple of myths. Took 2 myths. He has standoff. He can keep the peace as long as he maintains eye contact. And to go along with that, he has the Gila Monster's gift, where he can weep blood to intimidate or disorient others. And the photo, actually, my partner literally just sent me that photo about half an hour ago. That is their great-grandfather, who did get a parcel of land to start a tobacco farm in North Carolina.
All right. That's awesome.
And looks the part.
Yep. Yeah, that looks very 1880s. Jim, would you introduce us to your character, please?
Yeah, I am going to be playing Isaiah Charleston. I am a drifter, skilled in loneliness, whistling, and hiding. If you want to go spaghetti western, I'm going straight up Ennio Morricone here. So I'll be providing counterpoint to our eerie background music that we have going on, Shirley. My background is I was a rail spike driver, skilled in coordination. I worked on the railroad, but now I'm a drifter, and my drive is proof that the boss, and that is kind of in air quotes, the boss, is an outdated concept like the divine right of kings. And whether my opinion of how outdated the idea of the boss is has anything to do with why I'm no longer working on the railroad and am now a drifter, and what happened to the last boss I might have had, we will play to find out. We'll see if that that might enter into things. But my myths are: get thee behind me. I can compel an obstacle to remove itself. I think I we'll play to find out exactly how I do that, because I'm not entirely sure whether that's just a stare that backs people down, or or just a hard shove. But we'll figure that out. And I guess it could vary situation to situation. But and Sky knows the way. I can use the sun or stars to navigate accurately. I can been drifting long enough that I've learned to find my way around by the North Star and stuff like that, so I can get to where I need to go. And I've got a picture of myself down there from the kick-ass black Western, modern black neo-Western, The Harder They Fall, which is friggin' awesome. If you have not seen it,
that's been on my want to watch list, but I haven't actually gotten around to seeing it.
Cannot recommend it strongly enough. So, and in terms of getting me prepped for this game, it was something I was thinking of. So yeah,
wrote it down.
That's awesome. I will bump it higher on my list if if I've got a couple of hours to kill.
Seriously, it's so good. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Cliff, would you introduce us to your character? Looks like you still don't quite have a name yet. That's okay.
Oh, I gotta update that, but I do have a name, Antonio Bard. He is a ranchero, a homesteader out of the Tex-Mex Valley. Been kind of the science medicine and the tradicional curandero herbs and things like that. Something about his past, though, as far as having been out of the book or the thing, it'll say what is it, disgraced apothecarist, and I'll call that disgraced curandero. His drive is to find a town where either no one knows me or knows what I've done and start over, or something to that liking. And my myths are, I think it's lead touch and salt of the earth. I don't have the descriptions in front of me, but yeah.
I was gonna say they're there, but if you're looking on a small screen, it might be hard to read. It also could be a browser thing. I'm not really sure. But yeah, lead touch is immobilize something or someone with a bullet, and salt of the earth is earn immediate trust with the common folk.
Oh, with a bullet. All right. I got the immobilized part. I thought it was with a steely stare or something.
Yeah, that's the lead. That's the lead part of the lead touch. You can immobilize something by shooting it.
All right.
Okay. It is somewhat traditional for a Trophy Dark incursion to start with a poem of some sort. I am not going to subject people to my singing voice because, well, I actually, like you and don't want to subject you to my singing voice. But I'm going to read the little excerpt of a folk song that the author wrote for this. Oh, the prairie's home to both beasts and men, and wherever I run, it don't matter when. There's just one thing keeps me warm at night. It's my dreams of gold and of trophies bright. Yodel-o, de-lady, yodel. Now a cowboy dreams underneath big skies. On a prairie land, they can rest their eyes. But when cowboys pass and their stories told, is a man's true worth measured out in gold? Ring 1, the bounty, young toughs, and a path to follow. In recent weeks, belts have tightened, meals have skipped. Belts have been tightened and meals have been skipped with good paid work as rare as hen's teeth in these parts. You're part of a motley crew, short on cash and in town looking for opportunity, when the sheriff hammers a dead or alive poster outside their office. An etched likeness sneers at you from the poster, which says that the outlaw Henry Bantam is worth a small fortune, dead or alive. Henry Bantam, bank robber, noose dodger. They say Bantam was shot dead outside Elksville, but then a lightning strike knocked him right back to his feet again, alive. They say that Bantam's boots melted and that the bullets ran out of the holes in his chest like prairie dogs fleeing a flooded barrow. They say it's because Bantam went down to the Crossroads, made a deal, they say. Gave up something awful powerful in exchange for the fastest gun, for uncanny luck, for eyes in the back of his head. Well, people say a lot of things about Bantam. While you study the poster, some locals gather behind you, standing on wooden planks that cover the worst of the muddy street. They mutter and point at the poster and at you and at the guns you're wearing. A few spit and make it clear that this is a lawful town and your type ain't welcome here. One of them mutters, sun better not sit on you here in this town. You're standing outside the sheriff's office. There's a small crowd that's gathered around you, and they don't like the looks of you, and they don't want you in this town. And you've all heard of Bantam before. Bantam's almost a bit of a legend himself. He's been wanted for quite some time. He's got a mighty bad reputation. So Alexander, I'm going to ask each of you some questions about Bantam that we can use to do a little bit of world building here. What sort of eyes does Bantam have? What desert dwelling animal's eyes do they resemble?
What has eyes like that? Well, I think it's hard to tell because you can't really make out his eyes. They kind of shift when you look at him. If I had to put an animal, I'd say a scorpion, but like little, if you went to the eye doctor, they'd be little black ball bearings sit back in his sunken sockets there, but his face kind of shifts when you look at him.
Nice. Just got to take a couple of notes.
The only animal eyes I can particularly think are different, just talking for fun, is a goat. Maybe the most recent.
And continue on Bantam's eyes. What's the smallest creature he'd be able to see crawling across the desert on a moonless night and still hit it with a bullet like it was nothing? What's the smallest creature he could shoot like that?
I think the same. Scorpion.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Data tools. Text, there we are. Cool. I'm going to ask. So I am going to. Ask Cliff. When Bantam robs a bank, he always leaves a sign that it was him. What is it? And how do mothers replicate the appearance of this sign to their misbehaving children, threatening that Bantam will carry his children off and make them join his gang?
Oh, it's gosh, we got to keep with the scorpion theme. It's going to be something about a scorpion tail, and part of those stories at night involve the scorpion tail evil eye kind of hook. All you have to do is that, and that brings back any of the myriad tales of fear and
I'm just putting these notes down. I just added a notes tab. I'm just like writing this down on the notes just so that we've got a little bit of world building that we can refer to these later. Jim, what's the name of Bantam's horse? What sets it apart from other horses?
It's he calls it Cerberus. And what sets it apart from other horses is that like the kinds of animals that other horses would shy away from Cerberus. Like if a rattlesnake pops its head up and like pops its tail, Cerberus just like kind of like tosses its mane and spits at it, and the rattlesnake scuttles back into the bush.
And what's rumored to be special about Cerberus's diet?
Oh, what's rumored to be special about his diet? Oh, that that the bandit there always puts a drop of his blood into Cerberus's oats whenever before he feeds him.
Nice. Subtly creepy.
Just a drop.
I'm not sleeping tonight.
just a drop. Just a little taste.
So you have memories of these stories of Bantam are fill in your mind, and the reward for turning him in is it's a small fortune. This would like really like actually dragging Bantams in to collect the bounty. That'd set any one of you up for life, and even split 3 ways, it's a pretty good sum. But there's this crowd around you that doesn't seem to be particularly happy to have you here. You are standing like right in front of the sheriff's office. What do you do? I'm sorry, Cliff. What is your character's name again?
Antonio Bard. And why he just, turns around in a disarmed fashion with a wide smile on his face and says, well, of course you obliged getting out of town. I wouldn't stand to see strangers around either.
Are you attempting to charm them? Are you attempting to like use your mythic power on them? Like what's your intent on this? What is your intent on this interaction?
I think this is the time. I think I'm trying to put on the charm and kind of reflecting back what they say while seeming as disarming as possible.
Hold on, I'm having trouble with my window here. Okay, so you're trying to are you trying to like win them over onto your side or get them to leave you alone?
Let's start with the getting them to leave alone and maybe back off the out of town before dark.
Okay.
Threat.
Okay. Yeah, I think this may well be our first roll of the game. So you're gonna try to sway the crowd. I think that's going to be a risk roll. So what is your intention with? So like a little bit about how the game works. I'll just step out. So this game is a conversation. So we're going to be hopping in and out of. We'll be doing a fair amount of like hopping in and out of character while we're doing our resolutions. So I will ask out of character, what is your goal here in like what do you want to happen, assuming this goes your way?
I think we turn the distrust of strangers and the what might be a common no vagrants, no drifters around here to more of a welcoming, just positive versus strangers.
Okay. Cool. So you're basically just trying to charm them and trying to get them on your side. Got it. So Mark and Jim, what could possibly go wrong in this interaction? I'm gonna set some stakes around this.
I mean, the obvious thing is that they could not take kindly to someone trying to change their minds and get a little bit more heated, maybe violent. Not wait for us to leave town, but throw us out.
That kind of seemed like the logical consequence here. But if anyone has any other ideas, I think that
they could come to the conclusion that we're actually working with him.
Ooh, yeah,
we're actually working for Bantam.
Like we're his spies in town.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, we have some possible stakes here. Let's, if you wish to press on, let's talk about dice. So on the top of the character sheet, and there's also another link to it on the Safety and Resources tab. There's a little link that says Trophy Dice Roller, and that'll go to a. I've not used this before. It's super cool. I've played with it a little bit. This is definitely an improvement over the old Discord bot. So if you want to click on the risk section, once you've gone in there, let's talk about dice. So my first question is, do you have a skill in either your occupation or background that would help you here?
Salt of the earth, for sure.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna go straight to a myth.
And then for that matter,
awesome.
And then for that matter, would it stack? If there's anything about like being a homesteader or someone who's seems more from the region or what have you.
Yeah, you could totally tap that if you don't want to actually take the risk of using one of your myths right from the jump.
Yeah, that's also true. Yeah, I'd allow that. You're so using magic, so using your myths, you must include a dark die whenever you use one of those. So that's increasing the danger of the roll. You still need to even when you're using a myth, you would still it's still a risk roll. So we need to tap one of your. So if you want that first light die, we'd still need to look at your skills. So in this case, depending on how you want to, depending on how you're trying to get them on your side, I can see a couple of these. I see some of your skills come into play. In which case, I'd want a little more story around that, so we can tell which one.
Gosh, I guess I'm still kind of tempted to lean towards that myth, the salt of the earth, because
Okay.
Perhaps this is one of my first towns where I'm trying to feel like, oh, is there a place I can get away to?
Got it.
If there's someplace I could land right away, that'd be the way to go.
Got it. I'll give you a light die. I'll give you a light die for it's not really a skill, but I'll give you a light die for like being a homesteader. Like you're clearly a town person and you're in a town. I'll give you a light die for that. You must include a dark die. I guess the next question is, would you be willing to accept it? Would you be willing to accept a devil's bargain?
Ooh. Sure.
I'm going to offer one, and other players can offer them as well. So I'm going to offer, no matter what, a kid in the crowd is going to be so swayed by your moves that he wants to like start following you around.
Oh hell.
That's an offer. And when I say kid, when I say kid, I don't mean a young child. I mean like a young teenager, someone who's like 15 or 16.
All right.
So that's an offer. Mark or Jim, do you have any devil's bargains you might want to put on the table?
I think no matter what happens, someone in the crowd, looking at your drive, someone in the crowd does know you and does know what you've done.
That's cool too.
I like the two of those. I don't think I can one up either of those. So I'll
So the way
go with that.
So the way the devil's bargains work, if you'd like to accept one of these devil's bargains, you can, and you get another light die. If you'd like to offer, if you mostly like one, but you want to make a counter offer, like to add some details or change it a little bit, we can bargain on the devil's bargain. That's totally legit. So if you want to like try to modify it, we can try to. Whoever made the offer can, like, you can bargain with with whoever made the offer to change it a little bit if you'd like. One other thing I did want to mention about devil's bargains, especially if the devil's bargain has an impact on your character, other players may reject it, may say, you know what, I don't like that devil's bargain. I don't really want that one to be on the table. That is also totally legit. It'd be helpful if you could you don't have to, but if you wanted to make a counter offer on another devil's bargain that's on the table that would make it more to your liking, that is also cool. So it isn't just the player. It's not just the player who's about to make the roll. Everyone has input on all of the devil's bargains. But we've got two. One is there's like a 15-year-old kid that's going to take a shine to you and wants to start following you around, or someone in the crowd knows you and knows what you did?
Just to have fun and diving in for the first time with this going on. My brief counter offer, I guess, is what if it's kind of a combination of this 14 to 16-year-old you might want to follow around, but that familiar also turns out to be like, you're familiar somehow, and then that can turn into, and it turns out I do know you because
Oh, okay. It's someone you knew. Okay. So it's a kid that you knew as a child. So like the kid that wants to follow you around, we will later find out you knew as a child from wherever you were, from wherever you're running from.
Because of the legend or well, notoriety, really. So
okay. That sounds cool. I think we can work with that. So okay, so we have 2 light dice, one from your occupation, one from a devil's bargain. You must use a dark die because we're using a myth. So if you want to like click the plus signs on the light and dark dice. So we've got two light, 1 dark on the dice roller.
Let's see, when I click on it, oh, I guess it's the hyperlink.
Yeah, the trophy dice roller is a hyperlink. It's going to go to another page.
Okay, I guess it's loading up here.
It'll ask you to identify yourself once you get to the page so we know, so it can display a name when you roll.
Well,
and if you've got, and if you got, and you know, if you're having trouble, I can either roll for you, or if you've actually got physical dice and you just want to roll them at the table, I would believe, I'll believe you.
All right.
I don't necessarily need to see your dice.
Okay.
So,
I've got light and dark dice.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, if you just want to roll them at your table, that's totally cool.
And what were the totals as far as?
So go so you're going to be rolling 2 light, 1 dark.
2 light and 1 dark. All right. The dark is a 2.
Okay.
And then 1 and 3 on light.
So light 1, light 3, dark 2. Okay. So the high number here is 3 light. That is going to be a failure. So let me tell you, so the consequence is going to be that, I think the consequence is going to be that the crowd turns on you and they're going to start like throwing like bottles and like they're going to start like throwing bottles and rocks and like start like really getting kind of violent to like chase you all out of town. Or if you want to add a dark die and re-roll, since light was high, you can add a dark die and re-roll and hope for a better result. Or if you don't want to do that, y'all are being chased out of town.
I'm going to take that dark die and
roll 2 light, 2 dark.
See what happens. Oh, you know what? This time I think I've got it up here. If I click on rolls. Oh, maybe I'll go back to the base.
Okay.
All right. A 6 and a 4 on the light and 3 and 2 on dark.
Okay, 6 light. So 6 light is the high die. Perfect. Okay, this goes exactly the way you want. Go ahead and give us a scene. What does that look like when the crowd you sway the crowd in your favor?
Oh, they
what does that look like?
They start to see them a little bit of imagine the scene out of the Blues Brothers movie with the chicken wire and stuff like that, and the crowd, but the darker, seedier side of like, oh, what's going on here? You're clearly from not quite this part of town, and all of that, and yeah, something flies by and all that, but just going back, oh yeah, with this pleasant draw and charm, oh, can't we all just get along, and why, and I wax on about being neighborly and Christianly and things of that nature, and yeah, I just have this pleasant effect on people, and this time the salt on the earth thing kicks in.
Nice. So yeah, they so your words work on them almost like magic. They the tenor of the crowd just turns on a dime, and they and they oh, okay, well, okay, strangers, well, y'all take care. Y'all take care. We don't have a lot here. We don't have a lot going on here, but you folks seem all right, especially if you're going to go after that Bantam guy. He's bad news.
Smiling and pleased and reflecting, I turn my head a little bit to kind of hide the drips of sweat that are coming down on one side of my face.
Looking over the crowd, as they kind of they're dispersing or going out with their business or whatever, do I catch anyone who looks maybe a little bit too interested in that poster, or maybe a little bit nervous or angry, or has some sort of emotional response besides that darn guy?
Could you elaborate? I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
I think I'm asking to see if there's anyone who might be associated with him. You're
looking to see if
crowd.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're looking to see if looking to see if there's any of Bantam's men here in the crowd.
Yeah, or even anyone who he stopped by their ranch and bullied them into letting him sleep in his bed or whatever. Just a lead, basically.
Got it.
But yeah, one of his men would also be great.
Got it. Well, so as you're so basically you're checking, so just so I understand, you're looking the crowd to see if there's anybody that seems to know anything about Bantam. Okay.
Yeah, and I think Alexander's used to working a crowd and can pick out a mark.
Yeah, I'm gonna say there's someone who's looking a little grimly at that poster. It's an older man. He's probably in his, he's a real old guy. He's got to be in his early 50s. And yeah, he's looking kind of stern about he's looking kind of stern about this whole bounty. At this point, the crowd has mostly dissipated, but he's still standing there. It looks like he's still kind of sizing you up. Oh, and also one other person hasn't dissipated. There's a 15-year-old. It's like a tall and skinny, lanky kid who's wearing it almost looks like he's wearing his father's clothes. He's got a big Stetson hat on, and he's got he's wearing stereotypical cowboy clothes that are a little too new and a little too big for him. He's kind of hanging off on the side as you and he's kind of particularly looking at Antonio, but yeah, Alexander, you see this older guy, and he's kind of looking you up and down, as if he wants to say something.
Yeah, I think I walk up to him in a friendly manner and turn on the grifter charm and lead with something like, I could sense you in the crowd even before the others left. That there's an aura of death or loss around you. Is there anything I can do to help, or perhaps you would just like to unburden yourself?
Well,
Is there someone that you've lost that I could help you contact?
Well, that Bantam feller, him and his gang came through my ranch. Like looking him had a whole bunch of ill-gotten gains and was looking for a place to stay, and kicked in my front door and told us that he was going to stay at our place. them guys, they ransacked the whole place. They made off with all of my money too. I took all of my life savings from under my mattress. Them folks no good. Them folks no good at all. And that Bantam, something ain't right about that guy. Just ain't right. He knew things. He saw things that he knew. He just knew where he knew where we kept our money. He just knew. Went right over there, took it. I tried to stop him. He didn't even turn around. His hand was on his gun. He whipped it around, pointed it straight at me behind him. Pointed it right at me. Didn't even look at me and said, "You take one step further and you take one step further and your boy's going to be an orphan." So I stopped. We let them do what they wanted. Them guys no good. You're going to go get Bantam, you get Bantam and you bring him back. Dead or alive, he spits. You bring him back dead.
Do you know which way he went? We maybe could follow him.
Yeah, south. He was heading south. Was going up to the mountains. He was going up to the Horns. That's a local mountain range, which is to the south of here. Heard as they were leaving, I heard one of them say something about the El Dorado pits. That's an old abandoned gold mine. You know, that'd be a good place for bandits to set up camp. There's all those mines. They're abandoned. Plenty of places for them to hide. There's a town between here and there too. Might be a good place to stop over.
It seems this man has done you a great wrong.
Yeah, if I was younger and was a better shot, I might even join your little posse, but them days are behind me. So, while that's going on, let's see, we had a scene with Cliff. We had a scene with Alexander. Isaiah, is there anything you want to do? I think you're still standing by the sheriff. Sheriff's.
Yeah, I want to get us a copy of this poster so that we have it for reference.
You're just going to take the one down, or are you going to go in and see if the sheriff's got another one?
I'll go in and see if the sheriff's got another one. I will drift into the sheriff's office, if you will.
So as you walk to the door, the door just open. You know, you're like maybe a step away. You're reaching your hand out to like grab the door, and it swings open, and out of the office, out of the office, this like big guy, this big buffalo of a person, just steps through. He like fills this doorway, and as he's coming out, he's got a stack of cash in his hand, and he's like kind of like rifling through it, not exactly counting it, just kind of in a feel, and he like stuffs it in a, he opens up his duster and stuffs it and stuffs that money in a coat pocket in his duster. And he looks over his shoulder and says, Happy to oblige, Sheriff. Happy to oblige. And as he looks you, he just kind of tips his hat and walks off. His hat is made of his hat's beautiful. It's like made of dense fur. His clothes are like practically brand new. He walks around to the front to a horse that's tied by the hitching post. It's this like beautiful roan stallion. Looks like it's hops on the horse and rides off, and it's just like this absolute regal picture. Like, and as he goes off, you can he's got a rifle. He's got a rifle that's on the back of his. This is clearly a very successful bounty hunter.
I am going to pause.
That could be you.
I'm going to pause and
your future.
and see what direction he heads off in. Does he head south?
He does indeed also head south.
All right. I will make note of, the vector he has taken out of town. And kind of, kind of shake my head a little ruefully and, whistle a little tune as I walk into the sheriff's office.
So the sheriff's sitting. So the sheriff is sitting behind he's sitting behind a desk. He's got his feet up on it. He's got like a full, he's like got like a full like handlebar mustache.
Mm-hmm.
He's wearing his hat. It's got the vest with the 6-pointed star, gold star pinned to his chest, and he looks and he looks up. Says, "Afternoon, stranger. What can I do for you?"
Well, Sheriff, I will introduce myself as Isaiah Charleston and no longer be a stranger to you. I am here with some companions of mine in search of a better life, and the key to that better life is the bounty that is on that is currently on Mr. Bantam. So I was hoping that you might be able to provide us with one of those wanted posters, so we'll have it for reference, so that when we put a bullet between his eyes, we will know that we are putting it between the proper eyes.
Sheriff nods thoughtfully. Says, "All right. You're after Bantam. You're looking for the bounty on Bantam. All right." He gets up. The office is not particularly messy, but it's not particularly neat either.
Sure.
He like rifles through like a stack of papers and pulls out another copy of the wanted poster and hands it to you. And sure enough, Henry Bantam, dead or alive, and it's a hefty sum of money. Sheriff does say, like, so going after Bantam. He does have a gang. Bounty's only on Bantam. His gang ain't worth nothing.
And I say we will afford them the attendant courtesy then, sir. And I kind of, like I do a thing where I like fold it in half the long way, and then kind of tap it, sort of tap it against my hat, and then tuck it into my duster. Much obliged, Sheriff. Hopefully, when we see you again, I and my companions hopefully should be more than enough to handle that gang, and we can reenact the scene that I just witnessed, only with myself as one of the participants. And I grin and turn on my heel and go walking out.
As you walk out the door, as you're closing it behind you, you hear the sheriff say, like, "Well, good luck, Mr. Charleston." And under his breath, he says, "You sure as hell gonna need it."
I come out and I find my friends. Cliff, do you mind just putting your character on your screen name on Zoom?
Oh, thank you.
if you click on your name, you should be able, if you click on your name, you should get a rename
it looks like
function.
he's free. He's
Oh, he looks like he's frozen. Yeah,
locked up for the moment. So, but we'll see if
why don't I do
clicks
this?
back in.
Rename. He's Antonio.
Thanks for
I'm the host of the meeting, so I can do that. Cliff, are you there? You're kind of frozen.
Oh, there we go.
Rid of that. Seems to have kind of an unstable internet connection,
Yes.
which, it happens.
Like you say.
It happens. Oh, here he's coming back.
Okay. System just kind of starts to break down sometimes when I flip between windows here.
Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah, we lost you. We lost you there for a couple of minutes. It's okay with you. I can actually do the rename since I'm the host of the meeting.
All right.
Do Antonio.
I have Antonio in the spreadsheet, and Bard was the last name.
Antonio Bard. Okay.
Yeah, so I come, I kind of step down the steps and say Alexander, Antonio, and I kind of, I pat my my jacket and I say, I have all of the information we need to proceed with our endeavor. And then I look at the young man and I raise an eyebrow. And I say, are you planning on splitting this 4 ways?
At this point, the young man, while you were inside, the young man had come up to Antonio and said, stranger, hey, mister, if you're going after Bantam, I want to come with you. I'm a really good shot. I'm a really good shot with my rifle, and I think you're going to need all the help you can get. That Bantam's bad news.
He is, kid. Why would you want to get mixed up in this stuff?
Well, and I hook a thumb over my shoulder and I say, the sheriff did mention something about a gang. So it seems like we should have a gang of our own.
My friend I was just talking to said that if he was younger, he would join us as well. So perhaps you are that man, or will be when we're done.
Will be is right.
And I just say to him, and I say to the kid, like, is the kid actually armed?
He actually is armed. He has a rifle. It is a, the GM don't know anything about guns, so
sure, whatever. He's got like a Winchester or something like that.
He's got like a Winchester, he's got like a Winchester, like a low caliber rifle that you really wouldn't use to shoot anything much larger than a
jackrabbit or something. Sure,
yeah.
It's like a varmint hunting rifle or something. But so I say to him, come walk with us, young man. And we just kind of like walk to, like, it can't be that far to the edge of town because most of these towns are like long and narrow. So if we kind of go if we go the north side, like we go north, it's only 2 streets, and then we're like looking at the desert,
you're in the
or
desert
like that. And I pointed a cactus that has a flower on it that's like, whatever, 60, 70 yards away. I say, put a round through that flower on the first try, and we will be more than happy to have you accompany us.
Oh, okay, mister. Okay, mister. Yeah, well, like I said, I'm a really good shot. Boom. And that flower, he actually seems to be a pretty good shot. Well, shooting flowers off cactuses.
And I look back at Antonio and Alexander, and I like have a kind of well, what do you think look like on my face?
I think he walks in front. Yes.
I call him muchacho. He loses mu for making the shot. He's down to chacho. If I don't call him anything anymore, he's a man.
All right. Well, there you go. You are halfway to being a man in the eyes of Antonio, which is quite significant because I don't know that I've gotten to that place quite yet myself, and I have known him for several.
Son, what is your name?
Oh, he extends his hand. Jimmy Jennings.
And I take his hand and kind of like instinctively like turn it over to look at his palm and run my finger along it and says, yes, you will have a long, successful life if you come with us.
I will ask this. Does Alexander actually know how to read palms, or is he just making it all up as he goes? Okay.
I mean, he knows, and that he knows how to perform it.
Okay.
He has no actual powers.
I was going to say, well, I didn't know if I wasn't asking if he had actual powers. I was asking, if like, because there is an art to palm reading, like the lifeline. There's like, are you classically, are you trained in like how to do that? He has
probably like read a book or two.
Okay.
But yeah, he hasn't been trained. He knows enough to put on a show.
Okay. That was just my question.
You've never read a book on this shit. You probably apprenticed under some other charlatan, but I can imagine you've actually read a book. Probably tell people you've read books about it. But so I throw a companionable arm around the young man and I say, henceforth, JJ, if we are involved in any sort of a fracas, we will need to act and speak with alacrity, son. I'm Isaiah.
Pleasure to meet you, sir. Speak with Alacra what?
Alacrity is the opposite of what you are speaking with right now.
When haste. It is time to move
haste, son, haste.
Okay.
And so do we have horses? I mean, just kind of like regular getting around kit. Is that presumed? All right.
Yeah. You got. I mean, I was going to say it's a Western. You got horses.
Yeah. Sure.
You got sidearms. If it makes sense for your character to have a rifle, you got a rifle. I mean, Trophy Dark is not a. Cool. It's not a game where we keep track of equipment. If it makes sense for your character to have it, you have it.
Cool.
If it is, and until it becomes, until it becomes plot appropriate for you not to have it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we have a name for that town that's the intervening town?
The intervening town between where you are and where you want to be. Yes, it is called Resurrection.
So I say, JJ, by any chance, have you been south to trod the boards of to trod the dusty byways of Resurrection?
Resurrection? Can't say as I have. My daddy's been down there a few times.
Well,
but I ain't never gone there myself.
Well, congratulations. You are going to experience it along with us. Do you have a horse, son?
That'll do.
All right. Saddle it. Meet us here in this very spot in 15 minutes. Take whatever you might need for a few days on the road. And if you can find a long arm more substantial than that little varmint plinker, do avail yourself of it.
Okay. He runs off.
More rifle, son. More rifle. I say as he goes running off.
Hurry, Chacho.
Okay. So ends ring 1.
Nice kid,
Yay.
but about as sharp as a bag of wet mice.
Sharp as a bowling ball. What am I looking for? So yeah, so you head out. It's I'm gonna say it's early afternoon by the time you head out. And as you're heading south, off in the distance, like behind you, so to the north of you, you do hear the lonely echo of a train whistle like way off in the distance. You glance over your shoulder, and yeah, there's a train a few miles off. But hey, this is open desert. You can see pretty far. And the cloud of smoke and steam that the steam engine is kicking off, scatters the golden sunlight. And you're just kind of pondering, where do you think the train's occupants might be going? Just do a little world building here, like. Where's the Mark, where do you think this train might be going?
I think it is going west of here. I think Alexander's general attitude is that people come from the east and go west to find something that's not there because they have to bring it themselves, or something philosophical like that. So yeah, they're going west to find something that is already within them.
And as you imagine, what do you imagine that these diners are eating in the dining car that's so much better than the beef jerky and hardtack that you're eating?
I think the imagination of East Coasters traveling west is like this. Every car is like a dining car. It's fancy with tablecloths and silver serving trays and stuff, and they're eating mounds of freshly steamed vegetables and choice cuts of meat, and drinking wine out of crystal glasses.
Awesome. We're now entering ring 2. So you ride south out of town for not that long, and you come to a crossroads. Maybe a mile, not even a mile, maybe half a mile out of town. You come to a crossroads, and growing up like next to the crossroads is this very large, but it's a very large tree. It's a big, it's a big pine tree for the. God, I'm blanking on the name. There's a variety of pine tree that's down there that can get pretty big. I don't remember. I am blanking on the variety. Anyway, but this tree is the tallest thing on this. This tree is the tallest thing in the open desert for miles. The tree's white bark stands in contrast to the charred, jagged patterns left by lightning strikes. But the thing that most strikes you and most disturbs you about this tree next to the crossroads is that from a low branch, hanging by the neck, a woman's body dangles, twisting in the wind. Why would she have been hung out here outside of town instead of on an actual gallows?
Is this like kind of in between our town and Resurrection, or close to Resurrection?
It's on the
like
it's on the way. It's
Okay.
it's
A little bit
out of town.
I think you said.
It's
Yeah.
out of the what was this? What was the starting town? I don't think it even had a name.
But it's not like just outside of Pond, or
It's just
outside
it's
of,
just outside of the town where you picked up this bounty.
Okay.
I think I'll pose this one to Cliff. Why do you think she was hung out here on a lonely tree rather than in town, like on a gallows, which is normally where you do that sort of thing?
This is some sort of and a frontier like injustice, and let's imagine that bandidos who were heading to town, something changed before they got there, and instead of doing one direction, they wanted to discard, wait, just act with impunity and just quickly string up this person that they had kidnapped or etc. Well,
So you think this was so you think this may have been the victim of a so you think this may have been victim of bandits who they decided to kill rather than
bring along for ransom or whatever. But yep,
Got
this
it.
was.
what one more question to you. So what stories have you heard about these crossroads and those who die out here on the crossroads? Bad things happen at the crossroads.
Yeah, the legends are going to be about if we're I'm picturing a plane and this range off in the distance and stuff, and let's say the planes encourage stories of the wandering spirit. If the bad spirits get you and stuff like that, then legends that spirit keeps on walking the plains.
Do you cut her down?
Oh yeah, no, I look to JJ, and I say, and I get down off my horse, and I kind of carefully, actually I'd probably be on my horse, depending on how high off the ground is she, is the question.
She's not very high off the ground.
Yeah,
she's probably, her feet are probably only about like 18 inches off the ground.
Yeah, it's that thing where they probably lifted her up by the waist to put her into the noose or something. Like, it's not like they like shoot a horse out from under her or anything like that. It's
no.
Yeah. So I mean, I just
looking at oh, I'm sorry, go on. Yes.
I just walk up to her, and like I'm a big dude, right? I'm like 6'2" and huge shoulders, and I'd like
you're built like you've been working on the railroad.
I'm built like I've been working on the railroad. Maybe not like not super tall, but like thick and built and like clearly, and so I just like to just kind of gently, but like very gently place one kind of, scarred, knuckled, calloused hand on each side of her waist, and just gently lift her up so that there's slack in the rope. And I say, JJ, and I just say, JJ, and indicating he should cut the rope to cut her down.
Okay. Yeah. JJ comes over, and JJ's pretty tall and lanky, and yeah, he's got a big Bowie knife. He pulls that out, and he like makes short work of the rope.
And and kind of comes down, and I just sort of like kind of with her feet on the ground, I kind of like rest her back against, the inside of my arm.
Okay.
And I very gently push her eyes closed.
Got it. Well, as you
yeah.
do that.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
As you do that, yeah, her eyes.
Let me say, I reach out to push her eyes closed. Yeah, there we go.
Well,
yeah,
I was going to say, as you look at her face now that you've gotten her down, you do realize that her eyes are open, and her the eyes are her eyes look milky white, and what do they communicate to you when you make the mistake of looking into her dead eyes?
Oh, they communicate to me that she is very like her spirit is confused about like she still thinks the hanging is going on, and that like she can't seem to tell that we are not the people that strung her up, but the people that took her down. Like that the eyes tell me that she's stuck in that moment where they where the noose first caught.
Yep. And
incident at Owl Creek style, right?
Yep. And I think that realization is going to trigger a ruin roll.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that sounds fair to me. All right. So we got ruin. Roll it. That's a 3. My ruin is currently at 3. So I think I emit a low whistle, kind of a shiver, and then I press her eyes closed.
You felt something, didn't you?
And I just nod and I say, we need to get her in the ground. This ain't right to have her here. And I don't think we want to put her in the ground here.
All right.
She rides with me.
So while you're like basically going to lash, I assume you're going to like lash your body to the horse.
No. I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna put her in front of me, side saddle, you know,
you gotta carry her like that.
We were off to, like I was bringing her to church or something like this, and we're gonna get to where we're gonna get to somewhere, the closest place we can go where we can't see the tree from where we are. The little low rise or something like that, or or just far enough away that it's faded, in the heat mirage or something like that we can't see the tree from where we're at.
Got it. So while Isaiah and JJ are getting this dead woman onto his horse, it's more or less a one-person job. I guess JJ will help, but Cliff, you look back up at the tree, and you look up, and you see that there are like 6 or 7 buzzards that are just roosting in the tree, and they're all staring at you. And from what you can tell, there doesn't appear to be a mark on this woman's body. It's dry here. I mean, she's definitely been dead for maybe a day or two. Doesn't smell great, but it's dry here, so it's not like it's not like this was a so definitely dead, definitely smells like death, but it's not super duper reeking like it would if this was like a really humid or wet environment. But it's it's strange that buzzards would not have done what buzzards do to someone who's been dead in the desert. And that's a little disturbing.
Hey, birds. Oh, how come you're not hungry? What do you know? Just
And
anthropomorphizing,
And the other thing that you see from these buzzards, if you're like looking at the buzzards, they're looking in your direction, but it looks like they're not actually looking at you. They're looking kind of past you they're kind of looking past you, and you like follow their gaze, and in the dust and the rocks, there looks to be a very large book that's just like you didn't see it before because it was kind of like from this angle you can see it because it was kind of like behind a rock when you first got there. But yeah, there's this big old book that's like just lying face down in the dirt. That the birds seemed to have been looking at.
Hey guys, check this out. As I kind of start slowly walking for it, those crazy birds are staring past me and looking at this yonder tome. Approach and kind of suspiciously, I don't go right to pick it up, but I've just got bad vibes and stuff. So I'm kind of peer over as if trying to avoid the updraft.
Got it. Yeah. So you're going to go take a look at the book. Okay. It's a Bible, a big one. It's like a big old family Bible. It looks like it's been just casually tossed into it looks like it's been just kind of casually tossed onto the ground.
Well, that ain't right. Well, that's got to be picked up and cared for, and I'll aim to do that and start walking on back. People, while I'm kind of maybe flipping over the front cover and taking a look at.
Well, it's an old family Bible, so
book.
it's got it's old. It's got like genealogical. It's got like family. It's got a family tree written in the like hand drawn in the inside front cover, which again, pretty common.
Does it have a woman's name at the terminus of that tree, I guess?
The thing that catches your eye, however, Antonio, is that the name is the name of the family. The name of the family is Bard.
I just will. This is my family name.
Do you know this woman?
Are you surprised to find your own name in this random Bible?
Absolutely. Stunned to silence.
I think that's probably creepy enough that I think that is also going to trigger that. I think that's going to also trigger a ruin roll. So the way ruin roll works is basically roll a dark die. If it is higher than your current ruin, your ruin goes up.
Could I ask you to do the die roll this time?
What's that?
Oh, would it be all right if you did the die roll?
Oh, I could roll it for you. I could roll it for you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is it not doing anything? Roll.
I see a 3 over here.
I see a 3. Yeah. The first
okay.
roll was a 3. Yep. Mhm.
Okay, because I'm seeing nothing. That's weird. Let me refresh the page.
You rolled a 3 first and then a 4. So
okay.
I would take that 3.
Yeah, I will take the 3. I mean, I'm not. I hit it again because I'm not seeing anything.
Yep. Came up on mine.
3.
So you're golden.
Yep, you're good. That's weird.
Well, I definitely
But
have
yeah,
a,
you are good, but you definitely you definitely have a reaction to this, and I'm gonna add one more detail to this Bible, and that is there is a name, like just looking at the family tree, there is a name that there is a name in the family tree, which is Antonio Bard. With your birthday, but the year it was born was 1804. Your birthday, whatever you want to say that is, but 1804 to 1823.
and what year is that related to where we're at now?
Oh, it's like the 1880s now.
Oh, okay.
So someone of your name, born on your birthday, died at age 19.
Well, generations back, yeah.
Bunch of generations back.
Looks like you've already passed on, my friend. Kind of like clap Antonio on the shoulder. Try and lighten him up a little bit.
I am also going to say that you don't actually recognize a number of these. Some of these names are familiar, but because they're like common first names, but they don't seem to match up to the names of actual relatives that you know personally.
Yeah.
Or, or it's possible that you're from a branch of the family that they didn't record.
Exactly what I'm turning to, like Alexander and Isaiah, and just like that. This just might be a coincidence in another branch of the family. And I'm giving off this feeling, kind of almost hot and cold, kind of like, oh, this is precious. I'm part of the family, and also unnerved by this whole scene.
Okay, so are you taking this Bible with you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Carefully stow it reverently.
So yeah, you write off. I'm just going to say that there's a, like in the Western movie, there's just a brief scene that's like kind of like looking down at you from a distance, where two of you have been, like two of you are digging.
Oh, we don't need two of us to dig this hole.
Yeah, that's true. Like one of you is digging, and
those two would only slow me down getting this job done.
Oh well.
But yeah, there's like a brief scene that shows you doing the that shows you burying this body, and there's one more scene. Like go just give me the brief scene that is like once you've done, and once you've buried her, what's the grave like? What does someone say a few words, or like what's that scene gonna look like?
Yeah, I think Alexander like rises to the occasion, and not delivering necessarily a fully Christian eulogy, but kind of talking more in general terms about how her soul is lost and confused, and we've brought it here and interred it with her body, and may she find rest, and so on.
And like Isaiah is like staring at you as you're saying it. He has the no hokum look on his face as you are doing it.
Yeah, and I'm probably pushing the boundary of hokum.
Yeah, and he's got his hat, like his hat is off. He's got it against his chest. He's and when it comes clear that Alexander isn't going to start going into like one of his snake oil pitches, he actually like lowers his head and listens, kind of nods along as he does. And then when he finishes, there's that awkward pause, and Isaiah says, "Amen." And he puts his hat back on. And He kind of raised an eyebrow and he looks at JJ and he says, you seen death before?
He just nods.
All right, then. There's going to be more before this is through. So, and I just let that trail off, and I clap him on the shoulder, like, well done, because he was, he had a stiff upper lip through the whole thing, and I say, well, there's no resurrection for her, but there is for us.
I think after everyone leaves the gravesite, I have some a piece of iron, whether it's a horseshoe, maybe it's a railroad spike, and if it's a railroad spike, I'll actually like push it into the dirt, not drawing attention to myself, and just like kind of like whisper like Jodo de Nietzsche, like with like, I think she's a witch, so I'm like in check, just like say a little like extra like you stay put, witch. Whether that does anything or not doesn't matter. It's just
Awesome.
superstition.
I
Awesome.
feel like this whole scene from the tree, and maybe whether it's a montage or a dissolve to the burial, is just impeccably powerful. This is the great Western thing, whether it's like that long shot from drone / helicopter and coming in, but this just feels inwardly dramatic, for its space and pace and all of that stuff. But awesome beat.
So looking at time, there is one more scene. We're still in ring 2. There's one more scene that I need to do, but I don't think we really have time to do it justice. So probably a little more than 10 minutes. So I think, so if it's okay, I think we're going to end it here. We'll go pick it up. We'll pick it up next time with the 4 of you riding into Resurrection. And there's a scene that happens at the end of ring 2, which is like just as you're entering. So I think that's where we're going to pick it up next time.
This is a great place to end it. That's a great.
Yeah.
Great
I think
point,
that was a better moment to end on than the next scene too. So, so yeah, I think we're going to end it here. So I would like to do a little debrief exercise called Stars and Wishes. We got a little time left. However, I prefer to do that off camera. So anyone who is still watching, thanks for watching. Hopefully we will have a part 2 on this where we'll wrap this up, and look for that. Assuming that is actually posted, I'll have a link to that in the show notes. So thanks for watching, everyone. This is a fun game, and we will catch you all later.
All right.